entering the deep state. Keta is the level of it. It is raining today. What time is it? What's the date? I was always wondered by the fascination. Every time you turn on the news, they have the weatherman. He tell you the weather. All you have to do is open the window or look out the window. But Uncle Wethby, or everybody was the weather girl. And they come out and tell you about the storm front from the west and the high from the east and the low compression center in the north. Well, what was the fascination with the weather? We all know the weather because it repeats every year. The same time we get snow in Christmas time. We have a heat wave in August. Now, the weather should be on television when you get snow in August. Then it's news. Otherwise, what's the news? Well, stay with me because this is the deep state. When you open up your phone, first thing you see on your phone, screen, before you go like to a home screen, or what they call, maybe they call the first thing the home screen, is the time. What time is it? Everybody wants to know the time. And then when you go to your first page where Google is, you have the time, you have the weather, you have the date. All three things are its. It. These three things are independent of the ego. They come from the ayin, the ain, the ayin. And the ego looks upon these things. The ayin, the aleph, yud, nun, is comprised of the same letters as the ani, aleph, nun, yud. They're rearranged. The whole secret is to turn the ani into an ayin. See? This it is unconscious and activates in the unconscious. And we're trying to make the unconscious conscious by knowing the weather, knowing what time it is, knowing the date, knowing what day of the week it is. It is Friday. It is Shabbos. These things are beyond gender split. One of the words that they use now in gendered, the LBGDTQAPT talk, is the word they. That's for somebody who has both genders. He and she, no, you call them they. Or people in general should be called they. In linguistics, that's called epicene. Look it up. However, I feel that one should be called either one, echad, like Adonai echad, but not they. They is a plural. The other thing is, I feel a person should be called an it. IT, internet technology. Or even an IoT, Internet of Things. A person should be called an it. It is raining. Because what time is it? Time is going through you. The weather is circling you. And in a certain sense, this ego is a passive, I didn't make this up, George Grodek and then Freud, is a passive function within the it. The ego, the I, thinks it's controlling these things when really it's a passive function. I is a function of the it. Once you understand this, you're entering the deep state. See? That's why we're so preoccupied with weather. It's all over, newspapers, front page. You know, television is the most for me because I'm of that age that watch television. You know? And let me ask you something. In all these years, did you ever understand the weather broadcast on television? That was my joke. So, back to nature, the weather, and the unfolding of time. What time is it? These are functions of the it. But for today, I'm preoccupied with the weather. You see? Because, except for a long-range thing of global warming, you can't do much about the weather except change your location. But if you're here, say, like I am in New York City, and it is raining out, and I want to go out, I can't do too much about the environmental weather, and that's the it. Speaking almost 10 minutes now, and I've gotten away from the ayin and the relationship to keta. And some other deep state. The sexuality, the eros that takes place. If you don't think that the eros is a function of the it, then go on the web or even check your search results in Google and see what you look for. Or go to a site and look at some pictures of women, men, whatever, and see what excites you. See what gives you an erection. Sometimes the erection, or the stimulation, we'll call it, is beyond the conscious mind. And you wouldn't want to be stimulated in an erotic sense that way, but it happens anyway. But it happens anyway. And that is the eros, the part of the self that's more in the lower half of the self, so to speak, because the it also functions through yesod in the lower half of the body, in the second brain. Yesod is a function of the it. When you have to urinate, or what's sometimes called take a pee, because the letter P, or pei in Hebrew, pei is 80 in Hebrew, and it just so happens to be the gematria, the numerology of the full of the spelling yesod. Yud is 10, and Samek 60. Vav is 6. Dalet 4 comes out to be 80. So it's the P, the pei, is Yesod. Yesod has a mind of its own. Yesod is in the male related to the 8th day, obviously, the day of bris. In a certain sense, isn't this what separates the male from the female? It's the relationship in Yesod. What other functions are there with the 8? The letter Het. There are 8 days of Hanukkah. And there's another big holiday called Shemini Atzeret, the 8th day of closing. It's the closing of the Sukkot holiday. These 8s are all related. And 8 is not much different than an octave in music. But the 8, in normative esoteric thoughts, the 6 is the physical day, or 6 is physical in general. That's why it was Bereshit. Created 6, created the physical world. 7 is spiritual. The 7th day is Shabbos. That's spiritual. But the 8 is infinite. Have you ever seen like an infinity sign? It's a number 8 on its side. It's two interlocking kind of like circles. This infinite thing of the 8 relates to the 8th day in the bris, and the infinite relates to the it. And that's why there's such a great lure. 2 and 4. What's the weather? What time is it? People always want to know the time. After they know what day it is, another it. Time and weather. It. One can learn this by Googling it. Read up on it. Everybody goes through the experience of it. It's unconscious. See? And what I'm trying to show is this comes from Keter. And it functions through the body through Yesod. And we have Keter at 620. And we have Yesod at 80. And the 620 and 80 is 700. 700. That just so happens to be the name Shet, which are my initials in English. And then we add the two terms. So we get 702, and we have, what's 702? Shabbos. See? Because, you know, Shabbos wasn't created. Even though it's 7 of the spiritual level, it wasn't created, the Shabbos. So we approach this kind of spiritual infinite level, this, which is Mashiach level, the 8th level. In the Shabbos, especially the 4th meal, Malevi Malchus, whatever they, Mashiach, the after Shabbos meal, the continuation of the Shabbos, the 7th into the 8th, into the next week, so to speak, and to expand this infinite. Some people expand the spiritual into the infinite level. Some people even delay, or not delay, but put off the Havdalah, separation, into the for a few days. One can even do that until Tuesday night. That's extending the 7 into the 8. But Keta at 620, Yesod as 80, 700, plus 2 terms, 702, Shabbos, but it's also the word Ben. And please understand this. Ben is son. Bet, final nun. Final nun is 700. In a certain sense, that's the word ayin. So Ben, 700, so it's Bet, Nun, 2, and 700, 702, which is also the word Shabbos, which is Keta and Yesod combined, plus 2 terms. Oh, I went back to explain that. I forgot what I was going to say. And in this concept that we have of the 8, of the infinite, you see. Oh, the word ayin. Ayin has a final nun. That final nun, for me, is the Keta at 620 and the Yesod at 80. That's the final nun. The Aleph is obviously Hashem. The Aleph of the world, Aluf of the world, and the Yud is the seminal seed. This seminal seed is the bindu, the special drop from the male. That drips down from oil, from the beard, and oil, shemen, zayit, crushed olive oil. It drops down from the beard. The oil was made in the 6th chakra, the 3rd eye, the Tiferet, in the tefillin, the totafot of the head. Drips down the two straps of the tefillin. Oil the beard, comes into Yesod. That's the seed from Aleph to Keta Yesod. That's the ayin. And when you're able to sensate that, male only, when you're able to sensate that, of the oil dripping down the beard and into Yesod, in the lower part of the self, in the animal self, in the instinctive part of the self, which we call the second brain. When you're able to sensate that, see, it moves. As a tennis player I get out of the way so it can hit the shot. Ball coming to me, it wouldn't let it pass. There's an intuitive, instinctive timing that everybody has. You have to let it happen. And you, ego, name, Stephen, get out of the way, see, and let it happen. Not much different than a bullfight. Matador, I, gets out of the way and lets the bull, instinct, masculinity, eros, pass. What's the difference between that and avoiding a car in the street that's coming at you? None. You get out of the way. In Aikido, it's the same thing. You know how to make all those moves. As soon as you get out of the way. You see, there's a part in you that already knows all this. And they talk about this in Judaism, about learning it in the womb. You learn the entire Torah, and when you're coming out, the angel taps you on the lip, and you forget it all. Well, it's not that you forget it all. It becomes unconscious. And your role in life is to relearn what you already know. So, this is my great secret for this. If the ego gets out of the way, if the ani gets out of the way, then the ayin will appear. The it will appear when the I gets out of the way. I am smart. I am tall. They are relative things. Or relative things are like I am. I am handsome. See? I am going to the party. It is happening, but I am going to the party. See what I'm saying? So all of this comes through from language. This is the deep state. We're entering the deep state when we talk about language, because we're talking about the mother tongue, and we're talking about what's learnt in the womb. So the development of this seed, which is definitely the masculine yud. I'm not downplaying the mother's role, but the mother's role is developmental of this initial role of the seed that's actually created 72 days. 72? What does that mean? In Judaism, 72 name of God. 72 days before it's issued out of the Yesod area. That's the Yud. So it's Aleph, that's from the Aleph that created everything, that created the Bet. Then into the Yud, and then into the 700, the Nun, final Nun, the 700, which is Keter and Yesod. That's the Ayin. That's the It. It is reigning. Examine your own life and existence for these particulars of your, not addiction, but affliction, your attraction to weather and television sites and weather sites and wanting to know the time. And welcome to the deep state.